Hello, hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to the Face, the Card Making Space, and another STAMPtember exclusive limited edition collaboration for those that aren't aware. During the month of September, it is STAMPtember with Simon Says Stamp, and they have partnered with a ton of other crafty brands releasing limited edition exclusive collaboration sets. They are one and done. When they sell out, they're not restocked. But all of the brands they've partnered with have product lines of so many good things: stamps, dies, papers, stencils, all the things. And I always link to each brand in my collaboration video. Today's video is with, is it All in Create or AALL in Create? I'm not sure how it's pronounced, and I'm 99.9% positive this is the first year they've partnered with Simon Says Stamp, because I don't think I've ever used, yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the first year. So they have very quirky images worth checking out. If you've never heard of them before, I'll have a link to their product line. Check them out. The other thing I really like is with this set, and with all of their listings, their images are colored in. And I've talked about this before. I like images, brands that do that on their packaging, things like that. More so because it'll just give me ideas, or it makes me kind of think outside my own way of coloring or color combo ideas, etc. And this one especially, I took inspiration from the way these images were colored, and I had fun with it. So I made a flat shaker card. If you haven't seen my flat shaker card playlist, I'll have that linked in the end screen at the end of the video, because I have done many videos showing many different ways to make flat shaker cards. So I made a flat shaker card. I'll also have a link to my Olo markers playlist, because I did use my Olo markers to do the coloring today. So that playlist will be linked at the end as well. That's enough chatter from me. Let's get into making this card. So this is the Winter Bells collaboration set. And this is exactly what's quirky. Just quirky. Love it. It is a 6x8 set. So you got a bunch of images to play with. I couldn't resist using this trio of crazy birds. I don't know, they spoke to me. Although all the images in this set, again, if I need more hours in the day, I need more time. So I used those. I stamped the birds and the Noel sentiment, and then I also stamped the tree separately, all onto Simon Says Stamp smooth white 120 pound cardstock. And I stamped it with Simon's Intense Block ink, which is an alcohol marker friendly ink. And then I'm using my Olos to color this in. And like I said in the intro, I will have a link to my playlist with all the videos I've done so far using Olo markers. You can use whatever you want. Also, I am well aware my Olo markers are half markers. I have not connected them. That's just what's working for me for now. Ain't the end of the world, doesn't faze me at all. And even with me and my hand issues, I have hand and wrist issues, this does not bother me, because if it did, I would rectify it. But this is just what I'm doing. I've sped this up in editing. The one thing that I really enjoyed when coloring these is, I'm not even kidding, I was grabbing colors at random. I was kind of using the packaging, the coloring, somewhat for inspiration, but at the same time, I was just going to town and just grabbing whatever color. It really didn't matter, because these images are so multicolored, and that was fun. So I'm not doing any blending. I'm not doing a light shade, a medium, a dark shade. I'm doing a yellow, and then a blue, and then a red, and then a brown, and I just whatever. Just going for it. I enjoyed this. I need to do coloring like this, I think, more often, because it's fun. And I'm not stressing out about light sources or shading or anything, really. It's I'm just slapping on color and it just works. I don't know. I think it works. It was fun. So I just kind of kept going until everything was filled in, grabbed a few colors, and I was like, ooh, this pink's a little neon. I can work with that. Add a little other, a few other random little shades here. So you can see all the marker caps on there, but like I said, I don't think it really matters. I just kept grabbing colors. I was like, these are going to be very, very bright, crazy birds. Kept the sentiment the same, very bright and colorful. And then Once I do have everything colored in, I am going to cut all of these out, and then I'm going to focus on my background, and then I'll be revisiting these birdies once I get them attached to everything. But for now, got everything colored, and then like I do during STAMPtember, I fussy cut everything because I do not receive the coordinating wafer dies. FYI, depending on when you're watching this, the sets with the coordinating wafer dies are always the first to sell out. Understandably, like I've always said, if there is a wafer die, I would rather use it. But if I can fussy cut, anybody can, man. Although, yes, I do have like decades of experience doing it, but this didn't take long. Those birds were very easy to fussy cut. The Noel word, very simple. The background I trimmed down. I trimmed it down to about 3 3/4 by 5 inches. And then I grabbed 3 colors of Simon's Pawsitively Saturated ink and blended these onto the background because I decided that since, I went so super colorful with all the images, I was like, I'm going to make this background super colorful too. Like we're just going for it. So I have Sprout, Butter, and SEAFOAM Pawsitively Saturated inks, blended those onto this background. And then I'm going to put this into my splat box, and I'm going to add some splatter with my Spellbinders Splatter White Opaque Watercolor. So I take a little bit of that out of the jar, stick it on my little palette, add a bit of water, and then I splatter this with my fan brush. And then I'm going to add more splatter, because I said colorful background. I wasn't kidding. Because that's not, to me, that's like muted. We're going to add color. So this is my Distress Watercolor Pencil palette. I will have a link in the end screen at the end of this video to the video I did going in depth, showing exactly how I made this palette using like the shavings, etc., etc. And what I've been doing with this a lot more lately is just using it as a splatter palette because I've got all these colors, and because the Distress Watercolor pencils are a bit opaque, they're great for splatter. I love it. So I put some water into some of the colors that I wanted to use, and I splattered these all over this background. So that's where it really brings in sort of the chaos and the color, is all of these different colors of splatter. And same thing, I had kept my background in my splatter box, and then I'm using my fan brush and of course the picked raspberry. I did big blobs of splatter with that. Love it. And just rinsed my brush off in between colors, and then finished it off here with a bit of the red, and that was it, because now it's like this background was covered. So I let everything dry, and then to make this into a flat shaker card, I have just some clear like packaging or clear bags. I'll link to these specific clear bags. I also save like all my packaging that like stamp sets come in sometimes, because sometimes the packaging will split over time, stuff like that. I'll reuse that. I've shown that in many videos. So I'll link to this. And the nice thing with those clear bags is you can get multiple shaker cards out of it because you only need one little panel. So I cut it to larger than the little background. And then to adhere this to that background, I am using some very strong sticky tape. I much prefer adhesive like this, especially with flat shakers, versus like any form of liquid adhesive. In fact, I do not recommend any form of liquid adhesive. You would have to let it sit and dry. Every panel you fold over there, it would take forever, and even then I wouldn't trust it. You need a good dry adhesive. So like this Ultinew tape, there's Simon's Terrific tape, Score tape, Redline tape, anything like that will work really well. So you seal up the 3 sides, you leave the 4th side open so I can fill it with all my shaker bits. And for my shaker bits, I'm using some Simon Starshine confetti, and then I'm adding some Distress Rock Candy glitter. When it comes to shakers and glitter, the only time I will add glitter to a shaker is something like this, where it's a flat shaker and it's completely sealed up. I won't even use this in like those pre-made pockets, because a lot of times the corners aren't fully sealed and you only need the teeniest opening, and shakers made with foam, I won't put glitter in, because again, you need to make sure it's sealed up, because unless you don't like the person you're sending the card to. Because if they shake it and it's made with, like, the glitter is going to come out. Because glitter is just, it really is the herpes of the craft world. So, flat shakers though, mine are so sealed, nothing's going anywhere. Love it. And it doesn't create any extra bulk. So these are very easy to mail, and it's fun. So after I got everything sealed up, I showed trimming off just the folded over sort of corners that stick out. So I trim those off. And then to attach my little birds in the sentiment, I use that same sticky tape so that there's a good, you know, stick to that acetate. And then I took Glossy Accents and filled in their lenses of their glasses so that they're going to be raised and shiny. It's just fun. So it goes on a little bit cloudy, but then it'll dry clear. And I do that first because I'm going to add some white gel pen highlights, and I'll actually show at the very end. I'm actually going to add white gel pen highlights on top of the Glossy Accents because you can do that. I don't like adding the highlights or anything first because more often than not, it kind of depends on the amount of Glossy Accents you're adding. But a lot of times if you do white gel pen first and then try to add Glossy Accents on top, depending on how much Glossy Accents, etc., they'll like dissolve and eat away the white gel because the white gel pen is technically water reactive. So I do the Glossy Accents first, then the white gel pen. So very carefully, I was making sure not to smear because right now the Glossy Accent's still wet. But I went around and added little white highlights, dots, just randomness. I just following the style of these images. I wasn't worried again about light source or anything. I was like, a scribble look great here, a line, whatever. So just kind of worked my way through and added those little bits. I also like kind of highlighted the word or the letters in the block just to make them stand out a little bit more as well. So I did all of that, and then I let the Glossy Accents fully dry. So set it all aside, let it dry. So I worked on the inside of my card, which is a top folding A2 white note card, and I took that tree stamp again, and I stamped it with that lighter green ink, so that's the Sprout ink. And then I pulled out the Simon Says Stamp XL Christmas greeting set. This is kind of an oldie but goodie, and just FYI, this set I'm pretty sure they're going to discontinue it, but it's still a favorite of mine. But yeah, the sentiments, there's some big sentiments in here. So I took that big season's greetings sentiment and I stamped it with Sweets ink on the inside of my card. And then at this point, the Glossy Accents is dry. If it wasn't, do not do this over top of something with Glossy Accents because all these little paper fibers would end up stuck in it and completely ruin it. But the Glossy Accents is completely dry, so I'm not worried about it. I used my Tim Holtz paper distresser to rough up this panel of black cardstock, and then to give it extra super roughed up edges, I used my scissors because I've kind of talked about that. You can use your scissors to do this as well. So it just roughs up the edges. It makes an absolute mess. I'm fine with it. It's a oddly therapeutic, roughing up cardstock like that. So I roughed up the cardstock really, really well, cleaned up the mess, and then to adhere this panel to that panel of black cardstock, I put that sticky tape around the perimeter again where all of the folded over edges are. So this seals it up really, really well. Again, I try to be extra cautious when I've put glitter in a shaker to make sure things are sealed up and not going anywhere. Because like I said, you just don't want that. So Glossy Accents dry, everything's adhered. I added a few little highlights right on top of the Glossy Accents on their glasses just to emphasize it. And that finished off this card. Like, it's cute and quirky and colorful and fun, and it's got shaker bits, So the thing with flat shakers, depending on how much you put in there, they don't move around as much, because there's not that clearance of like foam tape, etc. But you can add the things like the glitters and it makes it easier to mail. And I love flat shakers. I've got dozens of videos in that playlist that'll be linked at the end. So you can check that out if you're interested. And like always, I'll have links to all the things in the description box below the video. My links are affiliate links, so that just means I get a little kickback from that. If you click on one of my links, end up placing an order at no extra cost to you. It's what helps pay the bills and keeps the channel going. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me today, and I'll see you all very soon in the next one. Bye. Thank you so much to my amazing Patreon supporters. For anyone that might be interested in supporting me over on Patreon, the link to that is in the description box below the video. For everyone else, as always, thank you all so much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't. I'd love to have you. And here's a couple other videos for you to check out in case you missed them. Bye.